Hi, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm happy that we got a nice group of people here. Some people I know and some people that we don't know. I'm going to introduce all the artists first in a second, but I want to start by giving a huge thank you to Espacio for allowing us inside of their space during these difficult times. We were looking for a gallery to do a show in, and of course, it's impossible right now, and understandably so. We're going to be as safe as possible during this weekend. Espacio is a little boutique store. It's not an art gallery, but they have space in the back that they've always used for art. So we will have our art inside. The show, we called it Cuatro por Cuatro. That's 4 pieces by 4 artists. So it's a 4x4. And we're gonna have our art inside of the wall. That's where, inside of the wall, inside of the store. That's where the show is. And there's gonna be a limited amount of people coming inside. So there's gonna be a line for people to come inside because they have to keep only 25% of regular capacity. But I think they're allowing, I think it's between 5 and 10 people at a time. I'm not sure, I think it was 5. So as people go in, people come out, new people will be able to go in. But the 4 of us, the 4 artists, we will be outside. We will be tabling. We'll have our art pieces. We'll be vending a couple things if anybody is interested in looking at those things. And I just heard today, Joe Baiza, if anybody knows, famous jazz guitar player, he's going to be out there set up and playing some music while we hang outside of Espacio. That's going to be a really nice treat for those of you that know.
Yeah, he's going to be playing with John Wynn, a guy named John Wynn. That's going to be like a guitar duet.
Awesome. That's an extra special treat for everybody. So I'm going to start first by introducing some of the artists. I'm going to start with myself first, and then introduce the rest of these guys. After we talk a little bit of our artwork, I hope that you guys here can, give us some questions and help us get through this Zoom with some interesting conversation. So first of all, if you don't know about my work, my name is Rafael Cardenas. I'm a photographer. I started shooting when I was writing for a magazine and just started with a 365-day photo shoot in 2010, and that has snowballed into me doing shows, doing small shows, and then doing larger exhibits. And I've now exhibited in a few museums, including Vincent Price Art Museum, La Plaza de Cultura y Artes, and I have a show in January, a group show with LACMA. Believe it or not, that's almost unbelievable to me, but I only know it's true because I get the emails from them. And so I'll have 4 pieces up inside of the space, and I'll be outside vending with everybody else. So let Rasheed introduce himself and talk a little bit about his work.
Okay. Hi, my name is Rasheed. Does everybody see me here? Okay. My name is Rasheed Buhamadi. Well, I'm an artist based in West Hollywood, LA. I'm from LA, but I'm of French Moroccan descent. I'm like first generation American, and I'm soon to be an expatriate moving to France next month. But for the meanwhile, I live and work in LA. I'm a painter, and I also make prints and drawings and architectural installations. You can kind of see back there. There's something in the back. Yeah, to give you an idea of what obviously I've been doing this my whole life, so there's no real starting point for me as far as I can tell. But I've been taking painting seriously from the time I was about 16, and I got to exhibit in a museum in Palm Springs, where I'm from originally. But yeah, my work is, I'm kind of rooted in kind of figurative representational painting, working from life, directly from life, whether it's a landscape or a figure or just any old thing. I kind of train myself to be more sort of halfway to be a perceptual painter, meaning that I paint from observation and And then I kind of changed course and became more kind of interested in Moroccan design, abstraction, different kinds of things. And you can kind of see here some of my work, you know, there's a whole bunch of it stacked up for a reason. But yeah, that's a brief bio, I guess. If I can talk more, you know.
Well, we'll come back to you, Rasheed. Let me just let everybody say hi first. Felix, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right, can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
All right, so thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Really happy to see some of the homies in here. Yeah, so my name is Felix Quintana. I consider myself a multidisciplinary photographer, trained as a photographer, but mainly I spent my whole life being really interested in like writing, graffiti, drawing, and trying to find that balance between something more analog, you know, like drawing, and then something more digital, like in digital photography. Yeah, I'm actually kind of straddling between Los Angeles and San Jose right now. So I'm actually in my studio in San Jose. I've been here for the past 2 years, working on my MFA degree in photography. So hopefully I'll be wrapping up next year. And you know, I dedicate a lot of my time and career to teaching as well. So I began working as a teaching artist, working with Slanguage Studio back in 2016. And I've taught all over LA, Plaza de la Raza, Artworks LA, and then recently in San Francisco at Southern Exposure. So yeah, a lot of my work has been kind of sourced by that idea of wanting to teach and also wanting to make my work. Yeah, so for the past about 2 years, I've been working on this new series called LA Blueprints. And that's sort of been a way for me to kind of focus my energy. Sometimes I can be very all over the place, wanting to experiment with different mediums. But for me, I've been able to kind of balance this idea of like analog and digital in one place. So I'm excited to share some of the work from that series for the exhibition. And I'll type my website in the chat so you guys can check out some more work as well. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Felix. We'll come right back to you in a second too. Manuel, introduce yourself. Say hello. Shine a little bit of a light on you. You're kind of in the dark. We can't hear you. Unmute yourself.
I said
There you
because
go.
I am dark. I'm a dark skin person. I can't shine a light.
Okay, just get closer.
My name is Manuel Lopez. I've been painting for the past 15 years. I've been very low key about it for the past I started off like in 2005 up until like maybe like 2013. I started to get more serious and started to put my work out there into the open. I consider myself a painter from like 2004 up until maybe 2012 when I started developing drawings of landscapes around East LA and City Terrace and El Sereno. I went back to the source. I felt like I needed to go. I I was living in Chicago. I did my undergrad in Chicago. I graduated, came back to LA. I didn't know what to paint. Um, I went back to the source, which to me was drawing. I started as a kid drawing since way back then. So I went back to it. I got a nice bit of exposure with an LA Times article by Esmeralda Bermudez, and ever since then, it's just a need that I need to go draw, and like I feel like it's just really really helpful to me. Um, I've been doing assistant teaching at East Los Angeles College. When I transferred off to the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, I did some TAing as well. Uh, Currently, I am working at Semillas del Pueblo in El Sereno, and I'm developing more paintings as of lately, and I'm excited about where they are headed. I haven't really like put them out. but I am happy we're in the direction that they are heading. That's about it.
Thank you, Manuel. Thank you. That was really good. I'm going to go back to Rasheed real quick, and I'm going to let you talk a little more, Rasheed. But I want to start you off by asking you if you could please tell us a little bit about your shows that you did last year in Morocco, and traveling over there and being an international artist now, and also like in a real sense, or in an artistic way, or I don't know, what is it that you think you look forward to, or what is it that you think you're going to find artistically in France? Like, is this something that you're doing artistically? Is this something that you're doing because we know you hate the politics around that are happening right now, and so what is it that, but artistically or even spiritually, like what is it that you hope to, like, you know, grow from this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm glad. I think this is the first time somebody asked me that. Maybe Morocco it's like a dream come true for me. It just happened, fell on my lap. I had always wanted to show in Morocco. It's my father's country, and I had been there, visited there since I was an adult, since I was 18, and I had always wanted to show there. And just by chance, a gallery approached me and saw my work online and asked to they wanted to represent me, like, immediately, a great gallery in Marrakesh. And so that gave that, if I had been kind of courting the aesthetic language of design of Morocco for a long time in indirect ways. Like, I had built a tea house for my father, which you know about, which is tiled in such a way, in Islamic tiles and mosaic, and with rugs and all kinds of things. I have always been interested in that aesthetic, but I didn't. I'd always been kind of like, showing that off in part in a kind of partial way, and also as a kind of as an outsider in some way. And when I got this show in Morocco, which was in September of last year, it really let me blossom a bit more, as far as this interest in Moroccan art and design. And I looked for a kind of archetypal Moroccan images and things like that, things that come from the culture of Morocco. And I just dived right into it and made dozens of paintings of Moroccan brides, a fantasia horse race. I don't have the painting that you can see just yet, but I have some of the paintings that were a part of a series that I showed in Morocco. And going to just talking about France, France is, I'm a dual citizen of France and Morocco and the United States. I went to a French lycée in LA, so I know the language, and I visited the country 9 times. But what really clinched it for me was the fact that I can be a part of a community in that part of the world. I can be more directly involved in what's going on. Morocco is close to. I'm moving to a town on the border of Spain and Morocco and France, and it's like a $40 flight to Marrakesh in Morocco from where I'm moving to in France, and so there's a geography of the situation. Also, I'm moving to a region called Les Pyrénées Orientales, and it's one of the.
That's what I thought.
Was that?
That's exactly what I thought. Go on.
Yeah. Anyways, it's a place that Picasso used to go through. He was born in Malacca, but his family moved to Barcelona around the turn of the. Just before the turn of the 20th century. And he stayed in these little towns in Catalonia, in French Catalonia, on his way up to Paris before he made it big. And ever since then, it had been a place that Modigliani and the great painter Soutine, who was my favorite, painter, like among all the painters. He's one of my very favorite. And so I do feel like it is like a new, like a spiritual homeland in a way, because it's the painter's town. and it's also a little off the beaten track. Like if you ask a lot of Americans wouldn't know, they know about Nice, they know about Saint-Tropez, or they know about these places on the Riviera, but they've never heard of Perpignan. So it's really low key. The other major thing that I'm going to do when I get there is I plan to open my own gallery. And that's
great news, Rasheed. That's great news. Congratulations.
Yeah. I've been wanting to do that for 5 years, and the rent is real cheap in Perpignan. It's a lot cheaper than Los Angeles. It's a beautiful city. Perpignan was a capital city of the Kingdom of Mallorca, and so there are relics of the Romanesque architecture and ancient. It's an ancient city. Yeah, it's beautiful, and I get to open potentially. I mean, I'm going to work on it. I want to open a gallery for the international shows, like you guys.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
The U.S. to France,
All right. Thank you, Rasheed. I'm going to come back to you because you didn't really touch on the France thing or what you expect to get from it artistically. Yeah. Do you want to touch on that right now?
To get is the opportunity to work really hard in a place that is kind of that inspires me in a certain way.
Got it. Yeah.
That's big for me.
Got it. Thank you, Rasheed. Well, you can what?
On that note,
yeah,
we can go back to Rasheed. I consider Rasheed a very good colorist. He's a painter's painter. And I was lucky enough to see Matisse's work at SAIC, and he actually did some very beautiful work in Morocco in the early 19 teens, like 1920s.
Yeah, 1912.
So I'm looking forward to seeing what Rasheed produces staying in France. I'm looking forward to really seeing the way his work is gonna change.
Yeah, even without all that, just to know that Rasheed is gonna like sit down and focus for a very long time. It's good to know that he's gonna just grab his brushes and like hit the canvases hard. I'm excited to see what you're gonna put together up there.
Yeah,
I'm gonna.
On a side note, I plan to split my time somehow come to LA.
Okay.
A month out of the year, so it's not like forever.
I know. We know that.
All right.
But let me ask Felix something real quick. I know that you're like myself, identify with Los Angeles heavily. Your work still identifies with Los Angeles, and you've been in San Jose for the last few years. And so I was wondering how it feels to be an LA artist working out of town. Like you're still producing LA work, but you're in the Bay Area, which is a place that I love very much. And then also, if you can also expand on that and tell us, because you're going to be coming back soon. And so where do you see your art going when you come back to LA? And I don't know if you have any plans for that yet, but if you can just kind of give us a little bit of your life and those experiences.
Yeah, it's for me, I left LA when I was 17 to study in Northern California at Humboldt State. Then I went back to LA once I graduated, which is where I met Rafa, Rasheed, Manuel, and a lot of amazing, folks in the East LA Latinx art community, or just art community in general. And for me, it's kind of been important to kind of step outside of that bubble. I was born and raised in Linwood, California, which is like considered Southeast LA. So to go back and, have a active studio practice in Boyle Heights, man, I think I learned so much, that I didn't learn in school. So for me, that idea of being able to take a step back to kind of see myself, my experience and the city from a different vantage point, makes me love the city even more. So in a way, it's like I try to push myself away a little bit just so I can, really refocus and see it with a new kind of appreciation. So what I've been doing is essentially, I can't be physically in LA all the time. So I started working with Google Street View as a way to to sort of, you know, navigate through the city and take like a digital cruise.
It's
So
awesome.
yeah, these are things that I've been doing for a while now. So I think, who knows, you know, I think the plan is eventually to make my way back to be more permanently in LA. Who knows, I might start making work about San Jose. It might flip.
That would be pretty cool. That would be pretty cool. Thank you, Felix.
So
Do you want to keep going? I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say is, I think to me, LA is just, man, there's something about that that experience that I had there that which, you know, a lot of artists can relate to.
Yeah.
Like Manuel can speak to that, right? Like
Yeah.
the skills and there's something about it, like a specific kind of love.
Yeah, definitely.
No matter where, if I could be, you know, on Mars and I'll always think about LA, I think it's just always gonna be.
And sometimes you are on Mars. I know you. Thank you, Felix. Manuel, so your question is a little bit the same but different, and I want to ask you two things. One is you're also very LA based. Your paintings and the work that you do, specifically East LA, but I always wonder what it did to you to go to Chicago and study in that atmosphere, in that climate, and what did being over there do to your thoughts of here? And when you came back, you always talk about how you wanted to just get rid of everything that you learned over there and start fresh. So maybe if you could talk a little bit about that experience. I know that it's just like crazy to talk about it in just a few minutes, but whatever you can tell us about that. And my second question to you is, I like to consider drawing therapy. You know, I call it my line therapy. I'm gonna do some line therapy, and I wonder if for you, like drawing lines and making lines, does that also like help you, like, you know, let your emotions come out through your hand and onto the paper? Is that something that you experience? Just go ahead and take those two questions and go with it.
I think I'm gonna start with the latter, drawing as therapy. I think we all can remember as children spending hours drawing, and I'm in the same boat. It was never really taken seriously until I got back from Chicago, and I'll get back to that Chicago part in a minute. But when I got back from Chicago, I came back with I mean, not that it was a bad thing because it was expected, but you're saturated with the theory of painting, and you're seeing walking through the museum, and you're encountering all these great paintings on the wall. And so I think I was, in Spanish, there's a word called empalagado, which means that you're like so
Just
full of something that it
yeah.
kind of gives you asco, or like it kind of makes you repel it. And so when I came back from Korea, I'm like, I don't want to paint anymore. And so
Yeah.
like I took it back to the essence of why I ended up in Chicago, and it was because of that love for drawing as a child. I always explored it. I took some classes at ELAC, and I took as many classes as I could, not not necessarily to get better or to draw lifelike, but it was just like this real curiosity for drawing. And so I took all the classes at ELAC, and then I spoke to an instructor, and they mentioned Chicago. And so when I got back, I was fed up with painting. And I remember, like, I still remember this clearly, going to a spot on First and Indiana by Mercadito. There's a Chase Bank. Oh no, a city. Either
Yeah.
Chase or City, but it overlooks East LA and Boyle Heights, like right.
Yeah, you get those two lumps of hills right behind it.
And then you get El Pino.
Yeah,
And so
exactly.
I was born in East LA, grew up in Boyle Heights, and it's always been back and forth. So when I was there, I remember that was my father's bank as I was growing up. It used to be Glendale Community Bank, I believe.
Yeah.
And so every time he would go to make a transaction, I would go with him, and they used to have a deposit notes and the pens with those little wires for people want
Yeah.
to throw the pens. And so I remember as he was being helped, you know, I would wait for him and I would be drawing. And so when I was there, something just clicked on me, and I was sitting in my car. I was listening to music. I had a random sheet of paper with a pencil, and so I was just compelled to sort of. The sun was about to set. It was like super nice temperature. There was music. There was a very romantic notion to it. You know, we romanticized a lot of things in the past, and I clearly think that this was one of them. I romanticized this past. I romanticized my childhood. I romanticized drawing. And so I ended up viewing this landscape. And I was like, how can I capture this? I tried to draw it out. It came out, in my opinion, I don't want to sound snobby, but it came out really beautiful to me. Like I was really compelled with it. And then I tried doing it again, and it was a total failure. So I had two drawings. I had one that wasn't necessarily lifelike or representational, but it had such a good feel. It had a good rhythm, and it made me feel what I thought at that moment. The other one, the other drawing, was more lifelike. It was more accurate, but there was something so mechanical and fake about it. So the point was from then on was trying to master what the first drawing was doing. What came so naturally, I had to work on it. So then that became the challenge. And so it became a sort of test on discipline on my part to go and make what was happening on that drawing occur every single time. And so I became in love with line work. I'm a big admirer of the line of certain artists, you know, Rasheed Picasso, you know, Matisse, Sheila, you know, these artists that just have such a beautiful line quality, and so that's what I'm after. To the Chicago question, at first it was a very huge culture shock. You know, I went to Brooklyn, I went to Griffith, I went to Garfield, and I went to ELAC, and there was always people that looked like me. There was always people that I could speak in Spanish and English, and there's always a certain type of humor that we would get along with. When I landed in Chicago, I just felt really like in shock. You know, I was surrounded by a lot of people whose culture I had nothing. I literally didn't know much about them, so it was kind of scary. It was good to be out of the comfort zone. And again, I was submerged in the institution, in the art institution, very heavy concept with painting and art processes and all this stuff, and it was a little bit dense to me. And so it I don't know, it's kind of foofies, I guess. A lot of the times it was kind of foofies, and so when I got back from Chicago, I think I saw LA with new eyes, just because I was gone for 3 years, just because Chicago was so different, and in some aspects very similar to LA as well. But yeah, I think I think mostly just like being away for 3 years and back, and you just notice everything with new eyes.
Got it. Thank you very much, Manuel. I totally see that, and I've experienced that in smaller experiences, because I've never been gone for so long, but definitely. I'm gonna ask Felix now, spur of the moment, to ask me a question because I didn't write a question for myself. So.
Yeah, I have two questions. One that's kind of more something that I think about a lot in terms of your work, Rafa, and two, another one that's just more relevant to the work that you're doing now. But my first would be, you know, I know that you have a background in theater, right? So you studied at UCLA College, doing theater, and also, you know, writing, songwriting. I just wonder how you feel like that has like prepared you, or how that kind of for your work as a photographer. So there's that. And
okay.
What I was gonna say is, you know, 10 years ago, you embarked on this journey to take a photo every day, right? Project. And this year, 2020, you decided to redo this project at the 10-year anniversary, right? And you had no idea that we would be in a pandemic. And I just want to know how that process has been of going out there and photographing. So yeah, maybe you can kind of do both in some way.
Got it. Thank you, Felix. Well, I think theater, if you could have some theater in your life, fucking get as much as you could. If you can take some theater classes, take them. Any kind of theater is just good for life experience, because it allows you to see and feel. And that's actually where I learned a lot, or understood vulnerability the most. I learned what it's like to be vulnerable in front of other people. I learned what it's like to really show emotions, you know. Maybe before that, I was like a lot more macho, or a lot more, you know, just East LA, you know. But I think after theater, I learned to just let feelings be feelings, and you know, become more of the person that I am now. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just, you know, trying to answer this off the cuff. But theater also helped me with my eye, definitely, because one of the things that I remember most is blocking. In theater, when you're blocking the stage scene, you put people in certain places. And so you're composing with live things. And so in photography, sometimes I know that I need to move over just a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right to make sure that the eye can see all these things. Because I remember in theater, we called it, where's your eye line? You know, where are you here, and this and that. So learning that allowed me to learn a little bit of composition and staging before I even got into photography. And I don't stage my photos, but I can move myself. I don't move the people, but if there's a tree in the way, or if there's you know, a person that's not moving, I can use that person and work around them, or go up or down to, you know, get the image the way that I want it to look. But I think mostly it's the whole vulnerability thing and emotional aspect of it that I learned a lot from. Also, storytelling also plays into that. So yeah, theater, I credit theater with so much in my life. I did a lot of years in theater, and, you know, was able to do some professional theater, and even traveled a little bit over to Europe just to do theater. And I did learn a lot from that as far as like life and how to deal with life. I about the 365-day photo shoot, I started that first one just to learn how to use my camera. You know, I was thinking of the whole, you need 10,000 hours, you know, to be good at something kind of a thing. So I was like, all right, I'm going to shoot every day this year. It was 2010. I'm going to shoot every day to get as much practice as I could. And just a few weeks into it, somebody hired me to shoot their baby. And then a few more weeks, somebody hired me to shoot an event. And a few other weeks, I was getting called. Self-Help Graphics was one of the first places that called me, hey, why don't you come and shoot this event and this and that. And so thanks to Yvonne Gallardo and Andy back then. And they helped me realize that, oh, I can do this, you know, as a living. So it grew and it kept growing. And this year, wow, this year, whoa. This year has been, you know, it's been a motherfucker. So I just started, I thought I was going to have a, you know, just cruise through the year doing the 365, but the pandemic did make it difficult. I mean, I don't even want to say like that's it's been interesting. And it's also been like, I've been able to direct my camera in a certain direction because I want to get certain things that I know I want to document, you know, for the long run. But it's basically the same thing that I did 10 years ago. I just wake up and I wonder, what am I going to go do? And if I have a place to go that day, I'll make sure that I get pictures on the way there and back. If I don't, I try to just like go have dinner with a friend, or just say, call Manuel and be like, hey, let's go over to Echo Park and do something. That'll at least give me some time out of the house to, you know, look around at people and things and try to get some pictures. Yeah,
There's something
I-
I was gonna say, like, out of all of us, I think I'm probably like the laziest artist in here because photographing Manuel is on the hills.
I don't think so, bro.
I'm just kidding, but this idea of like the daily practice, like daily just taking out and trying to get one photo, and not really about quality, but more about like
What?
this idea.
I'm not a technical quality kind of photographer. For me, it's all about what I'm feeling, and yeah, I don't try to shoot the perfect picture. I try to shoot a picture that feels perfect. You know what I mean? So it's a little different. And yeah, I it's just me and one lens and one camera, and just trying to make something out of it. But thank you, Felix, for the question. I hope I answered enough for you guys. And I want to see if there's been any questions here on the side that maybe somebody has asked. Do you see anything?
I don't think we have any questions yet, but if anybody wants to, type a question in the chat, or if you want to yourself and ask us a question.
Yeah, let's open it up to that. And I see Yolanda here said, I never thought theater has so much to offer artists and storytellers. Thanks, Rafa, for that perspective. You're welcome, Yolanda. Theaters, go see a play. I support a lot of LA theater. You should go see something. Question. Here's a question from Manuel. What are your thoughts on a question for all. What are your thoughts on teaching the new generation, and how can your influence help expose up and coming artists get work? How can you influence or help or expose up and coming artists to get work? I'm gonna let you guys answer that because you guys are teachers.
Yeah, Manuel, would you like to say anything?
Yeah, for sure. I think teaching is a very special calling. I think I was lucky enough to have very good teachers growing up in elementary and then high school and up towards college. So I consider myself very fortunate. Um, I aspire to be something along those lines. Every time I talk to someone, I try to talk about their work and talk a little bit about my work as well. Um, I'm not there to force anybody to do or to change their manner. I like when it's natural, when it leads, when you talk to someone and you just click. I especially like those relationships. I think those are like maybe like the best because everything just flows so naturally where you're feeding them something from your work and then it's reciprocal where you're receiving something from their work as well. I think those are the best. Those are the best relationships in teaching. In the part of the institution, like I think we always want to kind of reach everybody, like try to learn a little bit about their background and see where they're coming from, and just I think like just kind of humbling yourself and being in a position of the student as well, like where you're trying to receive from the student as much as you're trying to give to the student. I really like that. I like it. I like when, if like I said, I just like the natural feeling to teaching. I don't like it to feel like if it's too forced or mechanical. Um, what else is there? What's the LA? Let me see.
No, not that one.
Helping out the younger generation.
Yeah.
I mean, if I like the work, I mean, I'm gonna definitely talk it up. I think that's the best thing. I think if I see a person working and I admire the work, I think that's, for me, that's the best way to get my attention. Definitely.
Yeah,
All right.
quickly too. I've been thinking about this, especially as teachers, we have to come into the classroom with a lot of experience. I think a lot of people are getting their degrees at a very young age now, which is like we have to live our lives before that. But I think more than anything is taking our work very seriously And this means making sure, if there's an opportunity, making sure that you get paid, that you don't get underpaid. So you kind of set a standard for artists that come after us. Essentially, there's not a lot of opportunities, especially, as Latinx artists. We really experience a lot of hardships. So I think if we get put in a situation where our work is not appreciated, then it's not helping the rest of us. So in a way, helping the next generation means making sure that we are in a position that we're being supported and, setting a standard. Otherwise, this is how things have happened, artists doing work for free or stuff like that. And, as far as being in the classroom, I think it's kind of seeing each other at eye level, like thinking about it like walking, we're walking side by side, learning as much from the student and they are learning from the teacher. So
yeah,
all those things are important.
Yeah. Thank you, Felix. Thank you, Manuel. I'm going to answer this next question here on that two people asked. So it's basically how's the theme of the show, Cuatro? How did it come about? And let me get on that. And then can you talk about how the four of you came together? So Rasheed and I met in an old studio over on Olympic Boulevard back in the days. We became immediate friends. And then Felix also moved into that same studio about a year later, and we became immediate friends. And I think I introduced Manuel to Felix, right? Yeah, when we all decided to take a trip up to the Bay Area.
Francisco.
Yeah, San Francisco to check out some photography stuff. So we took a weekend trip up there, a few day trips, and they basically met on the road up there. And ¿qué más? So we've been always talking about doing a show together like this and throwing it up in the air. And because Rasheed is leaving this year, we decided to do something at the end of the year to try to, just to do something together. And there really is it's not a curated show. I'm pretty much just organizing it, and they're each giving me whatever they want to hang up. It's not a curated show. It's just that's why I'm calling it a pop-up now. It's just a 2-day pop-up at Espacio, and Espacio is a local little boutique shop that allowed us to use their space, and of course we're grateful to them. Espacio 1839. Did I say that right? And yeah. You can find them online. Actually, we could put their website right here, Felix, if you would. And yeah, I don't know what else. Any other questions? You guys want to look at the questions, answer something?
Yeah, Juliana, how important is a specific place to your work, especially when you are no longer there?
And then also Patrick said,
would be the best candidate for this show right now. I mean,
what is that? Wait, also Patrick also said, do you think your work would be different if you were not in LA? So if anybody wants to talk about their work from LA and being not in LA, maybe Rasheed, you take this one.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think about that myself because in some ways it's important that stuff comes where you're from, your environment comes into your studio in some way. It gets filtered through you and whatever the hell you're doing, but it always shows up. And even in a casual way, the fact that I paint a lot of people, like I've been painting and drawing portraits lately for various reasons, but just something like having you guys over or a model over, it's like having some aspect of my life here reflected in my work. Even if it's not palm trees or whatever LA is supposed to be. But at the same time, to a great extent, living in LA does something to you. It's a specific thing. There's a certain, I don't have a car. I take public transit. I'm kind of like you, getting around, getting to see the city, soaking it up in some ways or one way or other. But my work is not necessarily like beholden to either a place or a topic. any specific topic. Somebody asked me in an interview recently whether or not the events of this uprising in June over the killing of people, like whether the pandemic and all these other things that have come up this year have affected my work. And I said, yeah, it has. It prompted me to change course, but it doesn't necessarily I don't necessarily seek it out. It just, if it affects me, then it shows my work. But it's interesting. LA is a difficult city to embrace in certain ways. It's a complicated city. It just is. Yeah. It's a really complicated place. And the thing is that when I'm thinking to myself that I can have a more direct relationship in my art to my environment in a place like a quiet town in France or in Morocco. I want to see how that changes, how the dynamic changes, how open I can be and paint the landscape or bring it all in, or just be some, I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna find out.
Yeah, it's gonna be a journey. You're gonna learn as you do, right?
Yeah.
So let me move on to the just real quick. Somebody asked about Tropa Mágica. Luckily, I was able to convince these guys to let me shoot them the first time, and once they did, we started working a lot more. Awesome guys, love their music. But I want Felix, hopefully, to answer this next question here. Can someone discuss how important going to grad school is for artists to their work? Would you recommend it to an aspiring artist?
Yeah, Rasheed also, got an MFA from Boston University.
Yeah.
As well. We're trying to get Rafa to go to Harvard.
Yeah, law school.
I wish.
Yeah, you're gonna need a lawyer. Just
but all jokes aside, for me, I think, the first idea of grad school came to mind when I was still in undergrad. Luckily, I had an amazing mentor who really prompted me to say that there is no other option. Like, you have to go to grad school. And this is because I wanted to teach, to become a professor. For the whole time, I thought I have to go to grad school to become a teacher, to have an MFA. But as soon as I started, grad school, I realized that this is beyond just, wanting to teach, but it's really more of a kind of like a rite of passage, spending years that you can really just dedicate to your work and to your focus. You quickly, for me, I realized how even more important it is to be filling up these spaces, being, often the only person of color in the whole classroom, a lot of difficult conversations about the work or people not really relating to the work that I'm doing. So I think we really think about it differently. It is definitely expensive, if we know this. But in this case, for me, like wanting to teach, if you want to teach, definitely, it's just a part of that process. But I think, really going there for your work and wanting to kind of take your work to that next level and have that time just to be able to focus. And, I've been working, multiple part-time jobs the whole time. So it hasn't been, ideal, right? But at the same time, one thing that I've been able to do is write a lot more about my work, thinking about my work in an academic setting, art historical context. And you can do that outside of grad school, right? We can go to the LA library, and write. But I think there's something that is gained in the process. But I think it's also important for us to keep in mind that, not everybody, has an opportunity to go to grad school. And how can we make sure that everyone has that equal opportunity, to have a career? So I definitely say, take it on a case-by-case basis. Make sure that you know who's teaching you, who's going to be your professors, making sure that they support you and, that they're fans of your work and they want to see you, be a better artist. And again, it goes back to the idea of wanting to open doors for others through that. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if Rasheed wants to mention anything about your experience at BU.
Oh, at Boston University? Yeah. Yeah, Boston University. So I got my MFA there, and I did get my my bachelor's from the same school Manuel went to. We went to the same school at different times. I went to the Art Institute of Chicago, and the big difference for me with between the two institutions and the experience I had there was that once we finally got to the MFA, in the MFA program, kind of condensed everything. We got a smaller group of people. We had to cooperate with one another, but in a good way. For the most part, it was far more enjoyable, as in the sense that we had very close contact with other artists, and there was just focused. It was just like, BU is, especially then, John Walker was our professor, was the head of the painting department. And we were focused on mainly painting and sculpture. So we had painters, sculptors, and we just like got at it, and there was a kind of, there was a kind of a solidarity, in some odd way, artistic solidarity between us. We also had the famous artists coming to our studio, which was an experience, in itself. For once, these people, like, we were the chosen. Kerry James Marshall, I had dinner with him. He came to my studio. He chewed me apart. I mean, but it was special, So I really like my experience, that experience at the MFA. I mean, my only complaint about school really is that it's too expensive. And that's what people have to consider when they're embarking on an educational experience in this country. Whereas in France, for instance, if you, depending on the program you're studying and whatever you're going into, they pay you to go to school, which is logical because you don't have money yet.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, it is a shame that school is just a business here in the big business in the United States. As opposed to, an educational experience, which is what it should be.
Thank you, Rasheed. Thank you so much. Thank you, Felix. This thing went by so fast. I didn't think it was going to go by this quickly, but I want to give us like 10 more minutes. And I think I want to ask Manuel this last question that came in for him. And after you talk, I just want to go over where the show is and the protocols and how we're going to be COVID safe. So let's start. Manuel, can you discuss your approach to color in your work? You've discussed the importance of the line work, and that's definitely more striking in the use of black and white or blue and white. When are you compelled to use color? I guess just talk about.
I guess I'm compelled to use it when I, not to sound rude, but when I feel like it.
Cuando me da la chingada gana.
I feel like it.
But what I mean by that is like, sometimes like I'll feel like using it. I've been doing these really beautiful drawings in color pencil. I think maybe I'm more compelled to use it when I know that I could get away with it if I do it for 15 minutes. When you think about making a painting, usually you take, I take a whole day, and I'm over that right now. I don't want to spend the whole day painting. I'd rather spend an hour or two just really dedicated to drawing. So I started to get these like really nice color pencils that have a very saturated color. So I do like these really beautiful little, just tiny little drawings in color. I don't do them all the time, but every once in a while the need hits to use color, and I think that's when I use them. Just whenever, like I said, when I feel like it. But again, I'm right now I'm just very infatuated with line for some reason. So that's the key right now. But with the color element, sometimes I like. I'm getting into like labels or like book covers where I see something and it just like really speaks to me. So I don't know. There's just like advertisements, right now. Like I'm looking at a label for Topo Chico, and like it's a really pretty label, and the boxes. I'm infatuated with like the Roma boxes from Mexico. Just certain things that just their color scheme is, you don't look at it twice, but it resonates with me, and I sort of want to repeat what they're doing, but on a drawing basis. So yeah, just whenever I see something that really hits a chord, I try to use the color for it. Yeah, at Eastern Projects, I painted a couple of walls, pink and yellow, and then there was a wallpaper with vines that they use for graffiti or anti-graffiti around the city of LA. So there were drawings, black and white, just line work, and then there was also splashes of color here and there. I think it makes color a little bit more special as an accent when you're saturated by gray and then or black and white, and then all of a sudden you see a little splash of color here and there. I think it highlights the color even more.
Thank you, Manuel. Thank you so much. So I'm just going to go over a few things here. I hope that we answered some questions. I know that it's really difficult to like really get into these conversations or these topics and like try to say something like deep and meaningful like we always try to in just a few minutes. But I do hope that we touched on some things that you guys walked away with, and also not only the people that answered, but the people listening to the answers. I hope that you guys all gained something from here. So I'm gonna end this now. I'm gonna allow after I give this information, I'm gonna allow Felix to unmute everybody so everybody can say a loud goodbye after this. But I just want to go over that we are in a pandemic. We are going through this. The store has been following every rule. The store was even closed until we decided, after I asked them to do this show, they decided, oh, well, then let's see if we can open now. And they started to open and they started to have some people. They do everything by the book. Sanitize your hands before you come in. Wear a mask the entire time you're inside. Only a limited amount of people inside at a time. All of us artists will be outside at tables, but please do your best when you can. It's a small sidewalk. I know we're going to be crowded, but do your best to give some space. Do your best to, use Venmo instead of cash. Do your best to also, if you're sick, stay home. If you have any kind of symptoms, please stay home. The same goes to the artists and myself. So, following all those rules, I hope that we have a beautiful 2 day. The event is store hours, whatever the store hours are on Saturday and Sunday. So it's from 12 to 7 p.m. unless they decide to stay open longer. But those are their hours. I think it's 12 to 8 on Saturday and 12 to 7 on Sunday. So that's plenty of time for people to drop in. If you don't want to get the crowded times, try to be there early. And let's just respect each other and have a beautiful 2 days out there. And of course, support some of these guys out here during these times, and Merry Christmas. I don't know what else to say, but if you want to unmute everybody, Felix, I'd like to hear just everybody say good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye
Thank
there.
you everybody for logging in. Really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you.
Well done.
Thank
Well
you.
done.
I see you, Elon.
Adios.
Adios, gracias. Buenas noches.
Good night.